Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic and massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching our Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild, Charter, independent cable affiliates, and select markets. Thanks for joining us. Also on Hotel TV where applicable, and on your favorite streamer, and on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Chicago Food Favorites, check it out, folks. Fun group, talk about your favorite restaurants, favorite recipes, favorite foods. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Now, also, we want to get out there. Our friends over at Vacation Buddies want to give away a couple of nights trip to those that know the answer to a very simple trivia question. And that couple of nights is going to be in either Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida. If you can answer this simple question. In what year did the Brooklyn Dodgers move to Los Angeles? Was it A, 1927, B, 1937, C, 1947, or D, 1958? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with the station, but they want to give you a couple of nights in either Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you know the answer to that very simple trivia question. If so, call right now, 888-576-5777. All right, how about some college football? It's that time of the week, and guess what? Yes, we want to run over these rankings, and we want to run over the matchups. We want to run over who belongs in that slot and who doesn't. Let's just start at the very bottom with those receiving votes to be in the top 25. And it's War Eagle, 122. Auburn Tigers, they got 122. They are literally 9 off the pace behind number 25, Brigham Young. Mississippi State also got some votes. They got 102. South Florida got 77. Utah, boy, after a really, really ugly game, Utah still gets 45 votes. And I mean, Texas Tech just beat them like a drum. Arizona State gets 30 votes. Memphis gets 23 in a very hard-fought game. Louisville, 23 votes. Not sure why it's only 23. Maryland gets 6. UNLV gets 3 votes. Central Florida gets a few. And the Mean Green of North Texas get a couple of votes too. So let's go over to the top 25. Brigham Young sits in the 25th position. This is the AP poll, not the coaches poll. The AP poll is Brigham Young 3-0 out of the Big 12. They have a trip to Boulder coming up on this weekend, and they're going to be a 7:15 Pacific time, 7:15 p.m. Pacific time, 10:15 Eastern. So everybody on the East Coast, if you're up to watching some late football, well, you get a chance to watch Deion Sanders and his boys play Brigham Young. The number 24th Texas Christian University Horned Toads. They are at 3-0 out of the Big 12, matching up with Arizona State. And that's going to be a Friday game at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Number 23, Illinois drops 14 slots after just getting a good old-fashioned ass-whooping against Indiana down there in Bloomington. Boy, that was ugly. Indiana drops from number 9 to number 23. It doesn't get any easier for Illinois because they are hosting the University of Southern California, a newcomer to the Big Ten. And USC, I got to tell you, folks, they are playing really good ball right now. And they are ranked 21st and 4-0, of course, overall. But let's get back to Illinois. Now, they're facing USC, who just faced, being Illinois, who just faced Indiana. And Indiana and USC are almost mirror images of one another. So everything that Illinois is weak at, USC is very good at. And so this doesn't really look that good for Illinois. They're likely going to drop out of the top 25 from the AP. Who knows about the coaches? But I have to say that this one doesn't look good. And number 22, Notre Dame, somehow goes up a couple of notches with an easy win at home in South Bend last weekend. And now they're traveling to Arkansas. They're playing the noon Eastern game. So for all you early risers on the West Coast, that's a 9 a.m. game at Arkansas. So Pig Suey's going to try to take it to those guys, and we'll see what happens. Whoever covered number 21, which is USC. Number 20, the Missouri Tigers. Boy, there is a very good squad just flying under the radar in the SEC, and likely they just moved up 3 slots. By the way, USC moved up 4 slots from 25 to number 21. Missouri moved up from 23 to number 20. Up next for them on Saturday is the University of Massachusetts, and that is a 7:30 Eastern game, 4:30 Pacific time. And Missouri likely will go ahead and move right up the rankings from that one. That should be a complete blowout. Michigan jumps up 2 slots from 21 to 19. Now they're 3-1 overall. And they host Wisconsin, who have really fallen on tough times, folks. That's a 9 a.m. Eastern time game. And everybody that wants to watch it, you'll be able to watch it on the Big Ten Network. Now, Vanderbilt jumps up 2 slots to number 18. And Vanderbilt, out of the SEC, they have a defensive battle coming up with Utah State, but it is going to be in Nashville. So look for Vanderbilt to go to 5-0. That's right, Vanderbilt 5-0. Number 17, Alabama, drops to, well, they dropped from number 14 to number 17. And they are sitting at 2-1. Up next for them is a trip over to Georgia. That's not going to end well for them because Georgia is playing pretty good ball right now. And it looks like Georgia, obviously, is a favorite in that game, a home team favorite. We're going to get to the odds maybe in the next segment here. Number 16, Georgia Tech jumps up 2 slots from 18 to 16, that is, out of the ACC. Up next for them is a trip over to Wake Forest. Number 15, Tennessee. Well, they remain unchanged, and largely because they beat up on the University of Alabama Birmingham, which really was no big feat whatsoever. They should have probably beat them by more, but they didn't beat them by more. But it didn't really matter because the game didn't really go, I should say, from a score-wise, how Tennessee wanted it. Tennessee wanted a shutout, like 50-0, but they didn't get that. UAB did score some points, and this is why Tennessee remains unchanged. And up next for them is a trip down to Starkville to play a very good defensive Mississippi State club. Iowa State dropped 2 slots from number 12 to number 14 despite a win. And that's right, they're out of the Big 12. Up next for Iowa State is they're hosting the Wildcats of Arizona. They get themselves a win there. They might jump right back up in the rankings. Number 13 remains unchanged, and that's Ole Miss. The Rebels of Ole Miss, up next for them, they are hosting LSU, and who knows what's going to happen there. But I'll tell you what, Ole Miss, boy, they can sure score some points. Speaking of scoring points, up 5 to number 12 is Texas Tech with that bludgeoning of Utah. And as a matter of fact, that was actually kind of a cool helmet matchup with the U and the U for Utah, 2 U's on the helmet, and the 2 T's for Texas Tech. Now, if you saw that one, that was actually pretty cool. So it is Texas Tech traveling to play the Houston Cougars out of the Big 12. That'll be a good game. That's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Indiana jumps up 8 slots from number 19 to number 11 with that blowout win at home against Illinois. Now, Indiana travels over to Iowa, and they're going to play Iowa, and we'll get to the odds in a minute on that one, but I don't think Indiana will have any trouble with those guys. Dropping down 2 slots to number 10 is Texas. The Longhorns, 3-1 out of the Southeast Conference. Yes, the Southeast Conference. And they are traveling over to Gainesville to play Florida. Number 9, Texas A&M jumps up 1 slot from 10 to 9 out of the SEC, and they are hosting Auburn. This is a chance for Auburn to get right back in the win column there because Texas A&M, they don't score a lot of points. Florida State dropped 1 despite being 3-0, and they were idle. Now they are going to play the Wahoos of Virginia at Virginia. So that'll be one hell of a game. Oklahoma jumps up 4 slots to number 7, and they're hosting Cupcake City, and that would be Kent State. In fact, when we get back from break, we're going to cover the top 6, and we're going to jump into the odds. So don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back in a few minutes.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our affiliates, including our friends waking up with us over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, over in Auburn, Alabama, home of the Atlanta Braves. That's WAUD, 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. Thanks for driving home with us from Montgomery all the way to Columbus, Georgia, up and down the Midwest, out to the West Coast. Those driving between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, listening in on Highway Country Radio, 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. Thanks for joining us. That's home of the Vegas Golden Knights and the Raiders. Also, everybody up to San Francisco, Seattle, Anchorage, all the way down to Honolulu. CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus, all those watching on Cox, Comcast Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates. Thanks for choosing us, of course, in select markets, as well as Hotel TV. Same. We're applicable. Also, everybody listening in on your favorite platform, whether it's Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, and all the others. Thanks for joining us there, and everybody else also on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check that group out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Also, it just keeps going. Also, our friends over at Vacation Buddies, in the top of the show, they were giving away a couple of nights in fabulous Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you're able to answer a very simple trivia question. And here's the question in case you're just tuning in. In what year did the Brooklyn Dodgers move to Los Angeles to become the LA Dodgers? Was it A, 1927, B, 1937, C, 1947, or D, 1958? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but want to give you a couple of nights in either Branson, Orlando, Florida, or fabulous Las Vegas. If you know the answer, 888-576-5777. All right, back to this college football ranking. I will say part of it is nonsense. Part of it is just, well, it might just be whatever it is. So we left off at number 7. Oklahoma had jumped up from 11 to 7, and they have Cupcake City. They're hosting Kent State, the Flashes, the Golden Flashes. Number 6, which I've got to tell you, folks, I'm not really sure why this team is not number 1. I don't know. Somehow they remain unchanged, and it's Oregon. They're traveling to Happy Valley to play Penn State. Now, that is a 4:30 Pacific time for everybody listening in up and down the West Coast, 7:30 Eastern. And, boy, that's going to be one hell of a game. Number 5 remains unchanged, and that's Georgia. They are hosting Alabama. We mentioned that one earlier. That'll be one hell of a game. I think Georgia walks away with that one, but we'll talk about the point spreads real soon. Same thing with this one. Number 4, LSU actually dropped one despite a win, and they are traveling to Oxford, Mississippi to play Ole Miss. Boy, that'll be one fun game to watch. Look for a lot of points to be scored in that one. And, of course, number 3 is Penn State. Of course, they dropped down 1 because they were idle. Miami actually jumped up 2 slots from 4 to 2. And Miami is now going to travel on Saturday. Oh, wait, no, strike that. They don't have a game for, they have a bye week this week. So they're going to be sitting in the number 2 slot here. And they don't play till October 4th. And that is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern time game on October 4. And they're traveling over to Tallahassee to play the Seminoles. And Ohio State somehow stays on top. And they're traveling over to Seattle to play Washington. And I have to say, that is going to be one heck of a game. Watch out, Ohio State, because Washington has a few tricks up their sleeves. In fact, we're rooting for our friend Scotty Graham that's over there. I think Scotty's the running backs coach over there. And Scotty's a good guy, a friend of the circus. And hopefully Washington comes up with a nice big win over that team from Columbus. We'll see what happens there, folks. But we will always root for anybody that plays against those people from Columbus. All right. Now, all that said, we want to jump into the odds here real quick. Because, this usually takes a while because some of these games are played Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we have the Saturday games. Once in a while, you even see a Sunday game. But nonetheless, we're going to start out right away with the 9:25. So that is on the Thursday games, and that is going to be Army travels to East Carolina to play the Pirates. And East Carolina opens up -2, and they are currently -4 at 4.5 actually at one of the casinos here. And online, they're 4.5. They're 3.5, one other. But the point is, consensus is, it looks like they're about 4. We'll call it 4. So out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different lines that we see, if the consensus for us is going to be 4, at least half of those are better. So it looks like 4 is the ongoing line, and that's what it is at Caesars and also at MGM. We're not going to mention the online ones because why would we? Okay, Florida State travels to Virginia to play the Wahoos. They started at, Florida State was -7.5. They're down to 7 across the board. And it looks like Florida State should get themselves a W there. Texas Christian with a nice win in their last game. They open up +1.5 at Arizona State. Now, mind you, Arizona State is minus Scadaboo, who's with who? The New York Football Giants. But the line across the board, for the most part, is 3. We're going to give it at 3. And we'll take Texas Christian. By the way, we did really good in our picks last week. Texas Christian with 3. Houston travels to Oregon State. Houston's opens up at -12.5. They're -13.5 across the board. And that would be a really good cover for the Oregon State Beavers, who played a pretty good game in their previous game despite the loss. Bowling Green opens up at -10 on the road at the Bobcats of Ohio. The line is down to 9.5. Bowling Green is +9.5. That is a lot of points for an in-state rival. Mind you, Ohio had a pretty good game against their rivals from Columbus, not last week, but the week before. And so we're going to look at Bowling Green covering the 9.5. Actually, take Bowling Green plus the 9.5. And then on Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, it's Notre Dame traveling over to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And the Razorbacks open up +12.5, but the line is down to 4.5 across the board. Boy, something is stinky in Happyville there. I'm inclined to take Arkansas +4.5. And I wonder what it is. Maybe it's the secondary for Notre Dame, because the secondary is not very good. They give up a lot of big plays, and that might be it, because Arkansas is a big play machine. Louisville travels to Pittsburgh. Louisville opens up -5. They're 4.5 across the board. That one looks really good for Pittsburgh to be a home team dog. In fact, you could take that at MGM Grand. You could get it at 4.5. Caesars 4.5. Bally's would be 4. Duke travels to a very, very tough Syracuse squad who had an absolute ass-kicking of Clemson in the previous week. So look at it this way. Duke opens up -6.5, and they are essentially minus 5.5 across the board. The way Syracuse played, I don't know how they don't win the game straight up. Syracuse traveled to Clemson to play that last game, and geez, they dropped 34 on them, if I'm not mistaken. I can't see how you don't take Syracuse plus 5.5. I just can't. All right, the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech traveled to Wake Forest, and Georgia Tech opens up minus 17, and the line at MGM is 14.5. Caesars is minus 14. Bally's minus 13. So if you're betting that game, if you're looking to take the odds, you take all the points, well, it would seem to me that MGM would be the place, but Georgia Tech is playing really good ball. I don't know. Awfully hard to bet against them. I couldn't bet against them unless I was getting it at maybe 13.5 or 13. Bally's in Vegas is the only place that I know of out of the main hotels that will get it at under 14. Rutgers, well, they're traveling up to Minneapolis to play Minnesota. Minnesota opens up minus 4.5, and the line is essentially 5.5. We'll call it 5. Across the board, Minnesota's minus 5. That's a good number. Lay the 5, Minnesota all day. Cincinnati travels over to Lawrence, Kansas to play a pesky Jayhawks squad. Kansas opens up minus 6. The line is 4.5 across the board. And this is one that Kansas should win by about 10 points. But we'll see what happens here. Moving on, South Alabama travels to the Mean Green of North Texas. North Texas opens up minus 10, and they're up to minus 12.5, minus 13.5 at MGM. I don't know. As long as it's under 14, I think you're safe with North Texas. And before we go to break, the last one here is Kansas State hosting Central Florida. A very good Central Florida team, and a Kansas State team that knows how to run it up. But, boy, you never know what you're going to get here. Kansas State opens up minus 6.5. They're minus 6 essentially across the board. And we're going to go ahead and take Central Florida with the 6 points. That seems to be the best pick as far as I see it, as far as the money goes. And we're going to come back with Illinois hosting USC. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come, folks.
Show me the money!
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on all streaming platforms. Also, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners on that page. In fact, one of those is Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't get there to check them out in person, have some great food, well, guess what? You can pick it up online at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. In fact, while you're there, read all about the history of that incredible Italian beef sandwich. And by the way, it was created 117 years ago by their family. Again, check them out at alsbeef.com or check them out again in person at 1079 West Taylor in Chicago's Little Italy. Of course, they get the super applause from us. That's the extended applause, just because it's our favorite. And once you have it, you'll try it, you'll understand. All right, leaving off with Illinois hosting the University of Southern California. USC opens up -1.5. The line jumped all the way up to 6.5 across the board. Hell, even at Bally's, it's -7. If you can get that one under 6 or under 7 points, then I think it's a safe bet. Otherwise, you never know. The defense could show up in Illinois, but likely not. USC is really a good squad, and they're flying under the radar. Now, Vanderbilt is hosting Utah State. We made a mention of this earlier about a couple of good defensive squads. Vanderbilt opens up at -21.5. The line is 22.5 across the board. I don't even know if they're going to score that many points in the entire game between both of them. If I was a betting guy, I would be looking at taking Utah State with 22.5, only because I got to tell you, this could be a 21-0 game. Eastern Michigan travels to Central Michigan, the battle of the other Michigans. Central opens up -4.5, and the line is up to 6 at, 5.5 at Bally's. It's 6 at Caesars and 6.5 at MGM. Not sure which way to go on this one, but typically Central Michigan, the Chippewas, usually play pretty well at home. Moving on, Georgia Southern travels over to James Madison to play the Dukes. And James Madison, boy, these guys are good. They're, again, flying way under the radar. They open up -12.5. They're up to -17 at MGM, 17.5 at Bally's and Caesars. James Madison going away. If you can pick them up anywhere under 16 or so, I don't see how Georgia Southern even competes in this game. Arkansas State travels to Louisiana Monroe, and those guys open up. Louisiana Monroe opens up -1.5. It stays 1.5 across the board because there's no action on it, which means you get a real line. You get a true line, and Arkansas State should win this game, and that's probably the only true line that I'm going to see on the board today, and I'm about a third of the way through it. So that one looks pretty darn good for Arkansas State. The Akron Zips That's right. The Akron Zips travel to the Rockets of Toledo to play in a game which, frankly, Akron doesn't even belong in. The line opens up at 21.5 Toledo, and it's essentially the same thing, or 21 across the board. Toledo going away in this one. Utah coming off that really ugly loss against Texas Tech. Well, they're staying in the same conference, another conference game. This time they're traveling over to Morgantown, West Virginia. And now Utah opens up minus 12.5. And that one has stayed 12.5 all the way across. So I stand corrected on that. Arkansas State as being the only one with a true line. I just think that they're not getting the action. So any action on the Arkansas State game would move that line the slightest bit. But this Utah-West Virginia game opened at 12.5. It's still 12.5 across the board. And I don't know, West Virginia, home team dog at 12.5 looks pretty good, but Utah has to avenge that terrible loss. Look for Utah to win by a couple of touchdowns there. San Diego State travels to DeKalb, Illinois to play Northern Illinois. And State opens up at 2.5, and that line has fluctuated a bit. It's at 1.5 over at Bally's. And Northern, the Huskies, they went into South Bend and beat those guys last year, if you seem to recall. They're pretty well coached. So I'm not really sure which way to go on this one. I guess if I was a betting guy, that I would probably be leaning towards the home team dog at plus 2.5. The Cal Golden Bears travel over to Boston to play the Eagles. So it is Cal and Boston College. Boston College opens up minus 4.5. It's up to 6.5 across with the exception of two houses. And Boston College, I don't know. That's a lot of points. 6 points is a lot of points. 6.5 points, a lot of points for Cal. Look for Cal to cover. And Buffalo is hosting UConn in the Battle of Nobody Cares for the most part. Buffalo opens up minus 1.5, and they're plus 4, plus 4.5 in some places. UConn is playing better as a football team because they were just terrible from a football standpoint recently, but UConn looks to be playing well enough. But a home team dog, plus 4, looks pretty darn good to me. Indiana, who we saw put a whooping on Illinois in Bloomington, they travel to Iowa, open up at minus 3 at Iowa, and now they're up to minus 7.5. In fact, minus 8 at Bally's. That's a lot of points on the road. Look for Iowa to cover the 8 points if you're betting at Bally's. UCLA travels to Evanston to play Northwestern. Northwestern opens up at 5.5. It's up to 6.5 across the board. And again, Northwestern is a very tough place to play, but what they typically don't do is they don't cover against the West Coast teams. So I would take UCLA plus 6.5 over in Chicagoland. Rice travels to Navy to play the Naval Academy. Navy opens up 14. They're at 14.5 across the board. Navy going away there. Baylor travels to Stillwater to play Oak State. Baylor opens up minus 17.5. They're up to 20.5. 21 at Bally's and at Caesars Palace. That one looks like Oak State as an enormous dog at home. Looks like a pretty good pickup. Ole Miss opens up minus 2.5 against LSU in Oxford. And they're down to 1.5 across the board. Look for Ole Miss to find themselves in a winner's circle there. Auburn travels over to College Station. Now, I've seen this game up close and personal with these two teams before, and it just seems like neither team really plays a lot of offense for some reason. But Texas A&M opens up 6.5, and they're essentially still at 6.5, except a couple of houses. We'll take Auburn plus 6.5 in that one. War Eagle. Ohio State opens up minus 14 in Seattle, and they're down to minus 8, minus 7.5. And Washington still plus 8, 8.5. Looks pretty darn good. I'm inclined to take Washington plus 8.5 if I can pick it up over at Bally's. And there's a couple of other ones. Here's one that you don't really see. This one you could bet the entire farm on and your friend's farm. Lindenwood travels to Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio is 20.5. They should probably win by 200 in that one, if you know what I mean.
Show me the money!
Hawaii travels to the Air Force Academy. Air Force opens up minus 5.5. They're at 6.5 across the board, and that should be Air Force going away. Hawaii does not play well on the road. New Mexico State is playing their in-state rivals, New Mexico, and they're playing at the Lobos. They're playing at New Mexico. They open up 8.5. New Mexico's up to 14. And that game should be a complete and utter blowout. Tulane at the Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa. Tulane opens up 14.5. They're up to 15.5 across the board. I'll take the home team dog, Tulsa Golden Hurricanes, plus 15.5 all day and twice on Sunday. Tennessee, Rocky Top travels over to Starkville. They open up -10. They're down to 7.5. Mississippi State is a good defensive squad. Tell you what, I'll take that 7.5 over Tennessee for the home team. Mississippi State plus 7.5. Liberty to Old Domino. Old Dominion opens up -8.5. They're up to -16.5, which it's a little confusing here because Liberty has been a very good squad over the last few years here. But boy, is Old Dominion that good? I'm inclined to follow the money on this one. And gee, I got to tell you, Old Dominion, I'll lay the 16. Seems to make sense to me. Middle Tennessee travels to Kennesaw. Kennesaw -7. What? Who? What? Where? That's right. They're down in Georgia. And they're at 7.5 right now. And it looks like Middle Tennessee plus 7.5 looks like a pretty good pick. How about Rhode Island and Western Michigan? Who knew? Rhode Island travels over to Western Michigan. Western Michigan is 7.5. They should win by about 70. Memphis opens up -14 against Florida Atlantic. It's 13.5 across the board, and that should be Florida Atlantic plus 13.5 in that one. Vatech travels to NC State over to Raleigh, and that is NC State opens up -7.5. They're up to -10. Vatech with 10.5 looks pretty darn good. Jacksonville State and Southern Miss. Southern Miss opens up at home 2.5, and they're up to -4. And Jacksonville State's a better squad, period. Arizona goes to Iowa State, up to Ames, Iowa. Arizona is getting 7, actually 6.5 across the board, opened up at 7. It's down to 6.5. We're going to take Iowa State -6.5 as long as it goes under 7. And before the break here, Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, head over to Missouri State. Western Kentucky is -7 at open, and they're -4.5 across the board. And Missouri State plus 4.5 looks pretty darn good. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to pick up with Appalachian State and Boise State. Lots more to come here on the Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Your network.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, head on over to thesportscircus.com and check out the store. Lots of great items there. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, sweatpants, and coats, and travel mugs, coffee mugs, pillows, mouse pads, you name it. All kinds of cool items there with either the embroidered logo for the Sports Circus, a very clever logo, or it's silkscreen on items that are not cloth made. Anyway, check it out, the store at sportscircus.com, thesportscircus.com. If you mention Ringmaster Sal, you get an extra 10% off. So check it out, folks. Hurry up. All right, welcome back to everybody at radio and TV. You know who you are. Everybody streaming as well. Thanks for joining us. All right, back to these odds here for college football. Why? Because it's that time of the week and we have to do that. We left off at Appalachian State and Boise State. Boise State opens up minus 17.5 at home, and they're actually down to 16.5 at most, 15.5 at one of the online betting venues. I have to tell you, folks, that's a lot of points for Boise State, but Appalachian State, boy, they have fallen on hard times because apparently they were really good, and now they're just, well, they are who we thought they were. All right, so Boise State lay the 15.5. Moving forward, San Jose State, boy, they were a terrible team once upon a time, and boy, they have really stepped it up. They're traveling right across the bay, or right up the road, strike that, to play Stanford. I mean, these two teams play very, very close in proximity. Stanford opens up 1.5. It's 2.5 now at MGM, 3 at Caesars, 3 at Bally's. You know, this one stinks of upset. This one stinks of San Jose State finding a way maybe to win this game outright. That could be the Pepto-Bismol game. Here's probably the biggest blowout of the week. It's, well, for the big games anyway, from a Power 4 team. Missouri opens up 42.5. They're up to 44.5 against UMass, 45 at Bally's. Folks, this is one of those games where you could probably make a few bucks.
Show me the money!
And I'll show you a winner. Missouri going away. Washington State travels over to Colorado State. Now that line opened up with Colorado State 3. It's up to 5.5 now. Colorado State's a pretty damn good squad. I would lay 5 at Bally's because it's 5.5 at Caesars and MGM, 5 at Bally's, 4.5 at one of the online betting venues, but we don't mention those. Oregon travels to Happy Valley. Penn State minus 3.5 at the Open, and they're 3.5 all the way across. It's a third game like that. And you ask, why is it 3.5? Well, first of all, home field is worth 3 points. So basically what the odds makers are saying is that Penn State is a half a point better. They get the win over Oregon. Now, because they're at home, they say they're 3.5 better. I don't know. I think Oregon is the better squad. Oregon probably gets the win on the road, and they probably could slide into the number 2 slot, maybe ahead of Miami, who is idle this week. Alabama travels to Georgia. Alabama and Georgia in this game. And as a matter of fact, it opens up Georgia -4. Georgia now is -3. And that's at all the big casinos. And right now, Georgia is 3 points, probably, I would say probably about 6 or 7 points better than Alabama. Kentucky travels to South Carolina to play the Gamecocks. South Carolina opens up at 6. It's up to 6, 6.5. In fact, you can still get it at 6 at Bally's and Caesars. Kentucky looks pretty good, +6 or 6.5 at MGM. Marshall, the Thundering Herd of Marshall, travel to play the Ragin' Cajuns down to Louisiana. Louisiana opens up -3.5. It's down to 1. That's a really good bet at 1, in my opinion. I'll lay the 1 and take the Ragin' Cajuns over the Thundering Herd. Speaking of Louisiana, here's Louisiana Tech traveling over to Texas El Paso. They open up -4, and it's essentially 4 across the board with the exception of 2 online betting venues. I will lay the 4 and take Louisiana Tech. And to close it out in college football, it looks like Brigham Young traveling over to Boulder. And the line opens up at BYU -4, and they're up to 6.5. I'll tell you what, I'll take Deion's squad +6.5 all day and twice on Sunday and 3 times on Monday. Don't really see how that one happens any other way, but it is what it is. Speaking of odds, let's jump into the World Series. Now, in baseball, the World Series odds opened up at the beginning of the season. It was the Dodgers +310, so you have to put up $100 to win 310. Atlanta +800, the Yankees +850. Just follow me here for a second here. The Mets +1,000, Phillies +1,100, Astros +1,300, Orioles +1,400, Padres +1,800, D-backs +2,500, Red Sox +2,500, Rangers +2,500, Twinkies +2,800, Seattle +3,000, the Cubs +3,000. The Guardians +3,500, the Tigers +3,500, and the biggest one out of all these, as I see it, the best value is Milwaukee +4,000. 40-1 shot for the Brewers to win the World Series, and even the Reds at 70-1. So let's go back. Oh, by the way, the Toronto Blue Jays are at 75-1. That's right, 75-1. Okay, so let's go to the current odds. And as we look at those, let's do some compare and contrasting. The Dodgers, still a favorite, +475 at 1 online. They're +425 at MGM and +450 at Bally's. Philadelphia, half the price now, +650 at MGM and +500 at Bally's. The Brewers were 40-1. Now they're 7-1. +700 at MGM, +750 at Bally's. That's right. You see where we're going with this, folks. The Yankees +800, still +800. Tigers dropped all the way down to +825, but yet at Bally's they're at +2,000. Why the big discrepancy? Because the front wheel's about to come off the Detroit Tigers. The Blue Jays were 75-1. Now they're down to 9.5-1 at MGM, 8-1 at Bally's. The Padres were hovering around 40 or 30-1. They're at 13-1 now at MGM and 16-1 at Bally's. The Mets were 10-1. Now they're 14-1 at MGM, but they're 30-1 at Bally's. Maybe the odds makers over at Bally's either A, are not keeping track of what the hell's going on with baseball, or they know something that everybody else doesn't. How about the Mariners? They're +1,500 or 15-1 at MGM, yet they're only 5-1 at Bally's. The Cubs are at 1,500 or 15-1 at MGM and 16-1 at Bally's. Houston, 16-1 at MGM, but 35-1 at Bally's. Why are we doing this, folks? The reason we're doing this is because it gives you an idea of where you could still bet, whether it's online or whether it's in person, and get the prices that you're looking for rather than paying the big number. That's a huge spread. Even the Red Sox are playing very well. They're 16-1 at MGM, but they're 25-1 to win the World Series at Bally's. You see where we're going with this, folks? This is crazy. And even a couple of other teams that we have to mention. How about Cleveland? Cleveland, this is crazy. They're at 200 to 1 at MGM as it stands apparently today. 200. And they are the hottest team in baseball. But they're at 35 to 1 over at Bally's. That makes 0 sense. Even the San Francisco Giants, who are still in the mix, they're 250 to 1 at the MGM. And they're at 500 to 1 at Bally's. The Reds, 300 to 1 to win the World Series at MGM. And 60 to 1 at Bally's. And the last team that's in contention still are the Diamondbacks. 500 to 1 at MGM and 150 to 1 over at the Bally's. So when you look at the numbers, you say, well, why is that? Well, look, sometimes the odds makers will have, I guess, they'll have certain criteria that makes sense to them and to their bettors, and they're trying to suck the bettors in the same light as the Rookie of the Year odds, right? So you think of the Rookie of the Year odds right now in the American League, it's Nick Kurtz and everybody else. Nick Kurtz is minus 5,000. You got to put up 5,000 to win $100. Roman Anthony plus 160. He's not going to win. It's going to be Nick Kurtz. Jacob Wilson plus 300 or plus 3,000. Jacob Wilson was the guy until he got injured. Cam Smith plus 6,600 and so forth. And that's basically it. Over in the National League, it's a little tighter race. You got Cade Horton, very, very good player. He's at minus 115 right now. Drake Baldwin coming on strong for Atlanta, plus 130. Isaac Collins plus 550. That's basically about it. And when you look at those opening odds, though, in the National League, it was Roki Sasaki, who's not even in the list anymore, right? So he opened up at plus 225. Dylan Cruz, with the knee injury, opened up at 380, plus 380. Matt Shaw still around. And all the other guys, when you look at who's on there, who's on that list, there really isn't anybody on the list from the opening odds of the Rookie of the Year for the National League that's on for the American League. Now, over in the American League, by the way, Roman Anthony was plus 650. Now he's plus 1,600. The injuries have sidelined him. Jacob Wilson, same thing, opened up plus 800. Now he's at plus 3,000. And just looking up and down this list here, Jason Dominguez is still technically in the race. He opened up at plus 450, and Dominguez right now is plus 8,000. That's right. And so this has already been determined where it's going to be Nick Kurtz in the American League, and likely it's going to be Cade Horton in the National League, although Drake Baldwin's pushing on a little bit, but it's going to be Cade Horton. And so you ask yourself, why does this matter? Well, think about this. The Dodgers, some years ago, I think they had 4 or 5 Rookie of the Years, year after year after year after year after year. It was ridiculous. From Eric Karros to Mike Piazza to this one to that one. It was nuts. They just kept winning Rookie of the Year. And that's a credit to the system. The minor league system is everything. But the bigger question is, who is actually going to rise out of all of those players? And what teams are the best systems? And that's really what you have to be asking. What are the best baseball systems? And year after year, the Dodgers are there. Believe it or not, the White Sox are a really good system. The Minnesota Twins are a very good system. The Athletics are a very good system as well. And even the Cubs, very good system. It always comes back to system. So as we talk about the odds for this, that, and the other, a lot of it is based on who is developing what. Well, guess what, folks? We'll cover that in the next show. We're going to be back here in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. So until then, so long, everyone.
Show me the money!
Stop it!
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.